Good evening and welcome to Candidates Night Forum, where you will have the opportunity to get to know the candidates running for Villa Park's City Council. And the candidates will have the opportunity to present themselves before us and the city they are running in. My name is Forrest Case, and I'm the Director of Events for Villa Park's Community Services Foundation. And on behalf of the foundation, I'd like to welcome you all tonight and thank you all, especially you candidates, for your participation. Before I introduce the moderator, I'd like to give a big thank you to the city and staff for allowing us to have this event. I'd like to thank our volunteers for tonight, including members of the foundation and from the National Charity League, assisting us tonight. And I want to give a very special thank you to foundation members Chad Zimmerman, Mark Kulai, and Ed Carter for their service and work to make this event happen. Finally, I'd like to thank and welcome tonight's moderator, Carolyn Cavici.
Thank you. Good evening. It's a privilege to be here today. For those of you who don't know me, I had the honor of serving as a city councilwoman and then the mayor of the city of Orange, your closest neighbor, for many years, and then served as the executive director, CEO of the Orange County Taxpayers Association. But I love coming in. I love coming into Villa Park. I was just talking with them about the coffee cake at the Grove, which is by far the best coffee cake any place. So I'm going to explain kind of the process for this evening. We're going to be using a format based primarily on the League of Women's Voters Unbiased Guidelines. But before I go into those guidelines, I do just want to say I am going to be asking that you please hold all until the debate is finished. And I know how hard that is, but I'm really going to be a stickler about this. And I know there are those of you here, there are family members who favor one candidate over the other. But if we applaud after everyone speaks, the amount of questions we're going to be able to get to is going to be much less than if we can just move on to the next question. And at the end, we'll all just give every candidate a round of applause. I'm also going to ask no hissing, no booing, no grumbling. I have been up on a dais during a candidate forum, and I can tell you it's a big thing for these gentlemen who are here, and whether you like what they stand on, let's give all four candidates the respect that they deserve this evening. So here are the rules. Candidates will have 2 minutes each for their opening statement and 2 minutes each for their closing statements. They will have 1 minute to respond to each question. We have a timekeeper here. She'll keep track of the time by raising cards when there is 1 minute left in their opening and closing statements and 30 seconds left when answering the questions, and then a big stop when time is up. So why don't you lift those up here so that they can see them. So gentlemen, these are what you're looking for right here in the front row. The screeners are grouping questions into categories of a similar nature, and they're going to give me representative ones to ask. So the purpose of this is to sort out duplicate questions, assure topics of greatest interest are asked within the time available, and they're going to be putting personal questions aside. Questions directed at one specific candidate are not going to be asked. So note cards are being passed out. I think we're still passing note cards out, or we can. They're up here. And they're going to be collected with your written questions. Please word your questions again in a general way so that all of the candidates can answer them. Also, questions that are inappropriate for the branch of government involved in this forum will be set aside. As an example, a question about school facilities is not going to be appropriate for a city council candidate unless you phrase it asking about joint use of schools and city facilities. So no border questions this evening, no income tax questions. Candidates are seated in alphabetical order and have drawn a number to determine the order for opening statements, and this order will be reversed for closing statements. They're then going to answer audience questions in a random order so that the same person doesn't follow the same person every time. So let me explain how I'm going to do this. Candidate 1 will answer the first question first. Candidate 3 will answer the second question first. Candidate 2 will answer the third question first. Candidate 4 will answer the fourth question first. Not confusing at all, right? I got a list here. I'm going to keep track of this. Our screener tonight is Forrest, who you already met. Our timekeeper and Paige is Autumn, and Angie from the National Charities League. So thank you so much. All right, gentlemen, any questions? I think we're set. So they've drawn questions and they've drawn numbers, and they could not have drawn them in a better order for us. So thank you very much. The candidate drawing the lowest card was Lawrence Talaby. So, Mr. Talaby, are you ready? Timers? You can start with your opening statement. Let's get going.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for everyone from city staff and from the foundation for putting all in the effort to make this event happen tonight. And thank you to all the residents in attendance, in person and online. We all really appreciate the opportunity to be with you, introduce ourselves to you, and answer all of your questions. I really, truly believe with all my heart and soul that I'm ready for this opportunity and I'm qualified for it. And I've worked unbelievably hard to put myself in a position to be up here today. And the number one reason I've been able to do that is because of my family, who's right over there. They're wonderful, especially my wife. I've been operating nursing homes for over 11 years. I've been supervising over 200 employees. I've managed over a $20 million budget. I've started attending city council meetings this summer, organized residents that were very distraught about what was occurring next door to me, raised sense of awareness by organizing them with communication methods via email, exchanging numbers. I was appointed by the city council to the group home task force, where we had our first meeting just this week, and I was unanimously appointed to be the vice chair of that task force. So I'm looking forward tonight to instilling the confidence in all of you that I'm quite capable of carrying out my duties as a leader of this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McBride, you are next.
Okay, good evening. I'm Kelly McBride. I've introduced myself to a lot in the community as the fine Irishman running for the Villa Park City Council. I wasn't even born in Ireland, but what I love about my Irish ancestry is what I love about Villa Park, a sense of community and neighbors helping neighbors. As I've canvassed our community, my wife have logged 21,000 steps on multiple days. I've spoken to a lot of homeowners, and I'm frequently asked two questions. Why are you running for council? And if I vote for you, what would you do? Since I only have 120 seconds now, let me answer the first question and answer the second in the next hour and a half. Quite simply, my wife Catherine and I have fallen in love with Villa Park and the people here. Growing up, my mother called this being raised right. And since she was the good daughter of a Baptist missionary, she told me over and over again that if good people do not stand up and serve their community, then selfish people will grab the power and do whatever they please. In early 2017, I bought a building for my business in Cerritos, and after looking for houses along the coast, Tustin Hills and Newport, we kept hearing that Villa Park was nice, and checking it out, we were lucky to find our forever home and bought it sight unseen back in 2017. I suppose this is the luck of the Irish, as we have been blessed to meet so many smart and successful people that believe in the values of hard work, family, and relationships that have guided our own lives. There are four of us sitting up here tonight with only 2 seats on the council, and all of us pretty much know what's important to our constituents, making sure you're safe in your home, maintaining your streets, and keeping the water inexpensive and flowing. Your job's to pick the best 2 of the 4 to represent your interests over the next 4 years. But if you focus on character and credential, your choice is easy. My wife and I have logged many miles meeting people in our community, and I've told them if you vote for me, you will have a friend on the council, and although we may not always agree, I will always listen and have a discussion as friends, then choose the best solution for Villa Park.
Thank you, Mr. McBride. Mr. Keeley, you're next.
Good evening. I'm not going to waste too much time thanking you, but I do thank you for coming here. My name is Jan Keeley. I am only 2.5 years old in living in Villa Park. I fell in love with the community. Actually, our grandson picked the house for us, and he dubbed it a White House. So I now call him Mr. President. Welcome to your White House. Anyway, I'm a proud naturalized American who came to this country as a refugee in 1977 from Soviet Union, Republic of Ukraine. And I truly lived the American dream. I came here, I spoke no English. We had $16 between our entire family of 6. But with hard work, we all made it. And moving to this community, I really fell in love because small town USA still exists. And I love it so much that why I also always been involved with kind of politics, helping people out. And I want this to continue to be a thriving community, a small town community, yet with big aspirations. We want to keep it the same as it is. And I know I'm qualified because I still keep tabs with all my friends everywhere I interfaced with different city councils, with different mayors, and I do know what's going on around us as neighbors. And I know what works and what doesn't. And I will help to make the city continue being as good as it was and make it a little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Frackleton.
Thank you, and thank you, Foundation, for putting on this event. Thank you, National Charity League. Thank you, city staff, and thank you to our moderator. This is truly an honor. My name is Robert Frackleton, and I was born blessed because my parents moved here when I was 1 year old, and I grew up here, living on Beckley Circle off Fitchin Ranch, and then later on Hidden Valley Drive. And I attended Villa Park Elementary, Sarah Villa, and graduated from Villa Park High School in 1987. I love my hometown. You see my yard signs. They're the color of the Spartans, they're the color of our city. I love this place. 22 years ago, I was blessed again because my wife said, hey, let's move back to that place. And we came back here 22 years ago, raised our 3 children here. They went to the same schools. And now it is my wish to serve on our city council in order to maintain this unique little slice of America for residents new and old and generations to come. Short-sighted mandates from the state of California encouraging high-density housing, certain group homes, and other intrusions must be resisted. Public safety must be preserved. Updating our aging infrastructure must be prioritized. Financial responsibility is what our tax-paying residents deserve. I am a fiscal conservative who believes government should be as small as possible and as efficient as possible. My commitment to you is to preserve and further Villa Park's standing as our hidden jewel. I am president and majority owner of a metal fabrication business with 82 employees. I am also past president of Villa Park Rotary and sit on the Villa Park Foundation Board of Directors. Additionally, I coordinated the Villa Park Marines Thanksgiving program for the last 12 years. Quick commercial, now's the time to sign up to be a host. Go to villapark.org/Marines. You won't regret it. It's a great, great experience. I served 8 years as a reserve volunteer firefighter at Villa Park's Fire Station 23. I have volunteered at our schools and with our youth sports because volunteerism is the lifeblood of this city. And now I hope to volunteer to serve on the city council. I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frackleton. I would like to just say, if you've filled out a card and you have a question you'd like to submit, if you just hold it up, somebody from the Community Foundation will be happy to come and get it for you. So just any time during the entire forum, if you want to fill one out, just fill out a card and hold it up and someone's looking for you. With that, we're going to start with the questions, and Mr. Frackleton, you will be first up on that. And again, you are at 1 minute for this, and everyone please keep an eye on the timekeeper for that. No, the questions are 1 minute each. So now all she needs to do is hold up the 30-second and the stop. All right, we're set? Okay, good. We'll start with Mr. Frackleton. What do you see as the biggest challenges facing our city over the next 4 years?
Well, the biggest challenge has to be the things that are being thrust upon us. That is, the fact that we have to allow high-density, low-income housing per the state, and how do we go about that without disrupting our way of life here in Villa Park. The other mandate from the state has been that we have to accept group homes. Now, we have several senior living homes in Villa Park that pretty much fly under the radar and don't cause a lot of problem, don't cause traffic, but the sober living homes is a whole different story. and there's also a troubled teen home. And we've got to learn how to manage with that. I was just named to the group home task force, and we're going to start on that problem. The second thing is we have a low crime rate, and we got to keep it that way. So the city council has to make sure that we keep our low crime rate. And the LEAC Law Enforcement Advisory Committee is coming up with the camera idea, and that's coming up to council soon, and that's going to be an interesting addition to that.
Thank you. Mr. Keeley.
The city was run very well from what I looked at it. But just like previous speaker is, what concerns me is sober living and possibility of state intruding on our way of life. I also very concerned, and I know Villa Park always does a good job protect property owners' right. I want to continue that trend too. We don't want to make it too intrusive. At the same time, we don't want to make it so everybody paints their houses pinks and polka dots. But safety, traffic, and keep it as is and make it a little better as we go along.
Thank you. Mr. McBride?
I want to echo what Mr. Frackleton said about the legislature in Sacramento that produces mandates that we have to comply with. Those have a couple of impacts for us. One is there's a chance for their budget going south that they have government revenue reductions for us. So we really have to keep an eye on Sacramento. This housing element, again, represents the biggest threat to the essence of us living in small estate residential zoning. And so I would concentrate on interfacing both with the local cities that are also concerned with local control, and then interfacing with Sacramento in a smart, not angry and confrontational method, but smart and astute, the fact that we represent the middle class and that we include everyone. We're addressing the problem.
Great. Mr. Talaby?
Like these gentlemen have stated, the affordable housing development will be a challenge, and executing that challenge will be difficult. But as your councilman, I intend to ensure that we have an agreement with our developer that we have a plan and a mutual agreement to ensure that the city of Villa Park does not incur any costs for the development of that property or that construction. And the second challenge I think we're going to face that's similar is the development that's going to be at the Village of Orange. There's going to be a significant increase in traffic, which means we're going to have additional wear and tear on roads. We may have to budget additional money to manage the expense of additional wear and tear on our roads and come up with alternative solutions to manage our traffic in the neighborhoods that are surrounded by our schools.
Thank you so much. Mr. McBride, you're going to be up next for the first here for the next question. As if you are elected to the city council, you're going to be appointed and asked to sit on some committees. Identify which committees you have special experience or affinity for. Mr. McBride, we'll start with you.
So one of the things that was part of my credentials that I'd like to put forward is I've been in construction 43 years. I was happy to be nominated as a president and on the board of a billion-dollar segment of construction, and one of only 3 people to serve the 2 years for that. I have a business owner's pragmatic, conservative mentality to the job and a project manager that has to be organized and do the work. So as a councilman, I think that the important aspect, and again, what was the question one more time? If I was council?
Yeah, which committees? Do you have-
Housing Legislative Committee suits my credentials as a construction person, code enforcement, et cetera. So that's the one I would pick.
Thank you. Mr. Talaby?
The first committee I'd like to sit on is our Law Enforcement Advisory Committee. Public safety is absolutely important, and some of the gentlemen up here have already referenced that, because public safety is everything. If you can't go to school or be in your home or be in your business or be out on the street with your family and you don't feel safe, you don't have anything. So I would love the opportunity to participate in that committee because I think our community absolutely values that. The second is the Vector Committee. And while Ms. Miles is still satisfying her term there, I just truthfully have a general disdain for mosquitoes. And I would love to do nothing more than to participate in a solution to resolve that issue. The last thing I'd like to participate on would be e-bikes. I think this is a hot topic. I think we need to be concerned about our children because it's our children that are out there in the streets with those fast bikes. Some of them wear helmets, some of them don't. And it's just a matter of time before someone gets injured.
Thank you so much. Mr. Freckleton.
Thank you. Well, given my experience as a volunteer reserve firefighter for 8 years, I would love to be on the Orange County Fire Authority Board Committee. And I don't go there as necessarily an insider. I actually go in there with a little bit of a jaundiced eye since the union got rid of us reserves back in 2010 from Fire Station 23. And I think they need a jaundiced eye because their unfunded liability has been historically a big problem. They've got a lot of legacy costs, and they need a good fiscal conservative to be there. The second committee would be the Foundation Committee, because I like the fun stuff in Villa Park. I love the boat parade. I love Santa on the fire engine. I love Halloween Fest. I love the Marines at Thanksgiving. I remember going off to college and telling my friends about all these things, and I thought that every city did those things. And they said, "You have Santa Claus coming around on a fire engine? That's crazy." So I would love to be on the Foundation Committee.
Thank you. Mr. Keeley.
I'm going to just parrot what they said. Safety is number one in my rule, so I would love to help the community to get even safer, although it's very safe community. And number two is also vector control, because myself and mosquitoes have this love-hate relationship. They love me and I do not like them, okay? Also, in my previous life, and I'm still working as for a biggest cat company in the world, I worked with international groups. I know how to take big projects and break them down to small bites and solve them one at a time. So they can look at how we can improve spending our budget, which we actually do, but if we can do even better, we can allocate some of the money for maybe some fun stuff.
Great. Thank you so much. And Mr. Keeley, you're going to be first up for this next question, and it's a two-parter. Looking back at past Villa Park City Councils or past Villa Park City Council members, what is the most significant achievement that either the council or a specific council member accomplished when they were in office? And what do you hope to have completed as a promise to Villa Park if elected when you leave office? Understand? Great.
Before I even decided to run, I actually met with every single council member and just find out what makes them tick and how can I help. Obviously, Crystal Miles is a role model for me because she actually done so much for the city. And specifically the e-bikes and the Vector Committee, that's something that I am really concerned with and want to help to get going. As far as the entire city council, I think they're doing an excellent job within their means. And anything we can do or I can do to help that would also bring a benefit to the city.
Okay. Do you have a hope that you'd like to complete?
Yes, the specific thing is actually try to wrestle back the control for sober living, if possible, so we can have control in the city and not being dictated by the Sacramento.
Mr. McBride.
So aging infrastructure is also a looming issue for our city. We obviously, street maintenance, functioning sewers, storm drains, and water mains are extremely important to property values and the quality of life in Villa Park. I'm impressed with the previous councils that they have created a budget and reserves that allows us to absorb these unexpected expenses in the way they do. And I would look forward myself to implementing the sewer improvement plan and then taking a good look at these expensive costs and the remaining capital expenses so that we can work on things like our medians and other improvements to both the schools and things that will enhance our community.
Mr. Talabi.
I think one of the greatest achievements most recently by previous council is the Smith Basin Plan for the affordable housing. It really is an incredible story of how that entire thing manifested. And for those of you that are curious to know, I'd love to tell you afterwards when I have more than 45 seconds to tell you about it. In addition to that, I would like to achieve building a better network and marketing plan for the city of Villa Park with our local, state, and federal representatives. I think we can do a better job, not that we do a bad job, because Villa Park is basically perfect, but we could do a better job getting new information coming down the pipe of potential legislation or state mandates or federal mandates that may negatively affect our city. Put it on our website, make it more available to our residents so that you folks are educated when you're going to the ballot and you know exactly what you're voting for.
Thank you. Mr. Frackleton.
All right. Well, I'm proud to be endorsed by 14 of the former city council people and mayors, including 4 of the current council. And I would be in big trouble if I didn't say my favorite council person of all time was my father, who's sitting right there. And he was involved in getting us involved with Orange County Fire Authority, the Joint Powers Agreement way back when, which without we would have been in deep trouble because our medical services were with Cal State at the time, and we really needed to have medical services in Villa Park. So I'm going way back for that one. And the City Council has done a great job. Our Investment Advisory Committee has as well, in that we've got a nice set of reserves. We are in great shape budget-wise. I don't want to disparage our city of Orange since our moderator is from there, but they're in bad shape. And so they are upside down financially, and so we got to make sure that we don't get there.
And you can read my op-ed on that at the next, in the next Foothill Century, the October issue. Mr. Talaby, you're going to be up next for the first question, and it's an e-bike question. What do you think we should do to avoid serious injuries involving e-bikes?
I think we should do what we're doing right now. I think it's a great effort that we're working with the school district to come up with a plan to help keep our children safe. And I think it's a great plan. And I think it's a non-punitive approach, because the last thing we want is, in this community, we feel like we have Big Brother patrolling the streets, punishing people for just being people. But we want people to be safe. We want people to enjoy themselves, and we want our children to enjoy themselves. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with children taking their e-bikes to school as long as they're following the process. And I think as long as we continue to collaborate with each other, with the school district, and with the sheriff's department, I think we can come up with a great program to ensure our children and adults are safe and free of injury.
Thank you. Mr. Frackleton.
All right. Well, I guess on one hand, we should be thrilled they're off their phones for once. But the e-bike, if you've had one go flying past you at 1,000,000 miles an hour, is an issue. I went to the e-bike event at the high school a couple of weeks ago, and Deputy McDermott did a great job of explaining what the rules and regulations are and all the different types of e-bikes there are, and when you have to wear a helmet, which is all the time, and that you can't have a passenger on there when it's not designed to have a passenger. So I think education is key. We got to keep doing the education, and they're doing a good job of that. I also think that there's some golf carts that run around town too that are pretty fast, and we probably need to do some education with them as well, because I'd hate to see someone get hurt.
Mr. Keeley.
E-bikes. Just yesterday at the City Council, they talked about it, and Nicole Johnson and Crystal Miles, they spearheaded that. I didn't know that e-bikes have 1, 2, and 3 levels. But what I think is the most important, besides teaching the children, interface with the family, because it starts with the family. So the family should really provide guidance in safe way of using the bikes. Equipment should be used. I used to ride a bicycle where I used to live for 40 years in Irvine, all the way to Laguna Beach. And believe me, without the helmet and some gloves, I would have got much bigger scrapes than I have right now. So anyway, it more importantly involve parents and family to promote safety for the children and ride those e-bikes.
Mr. McBride.
news a couple of very tragic incidents with motorized vehicles. And I think we're at the point where we should follow the lead of fellow cities like Irvine that are proposing licensing or at a minimum a safety class and a certificate so that they can at least know that they have been trained in operating a vehicle at those type of speeds. I'm in favor of that, and I imagine it'll be a discussion in LEAC. The sheriffs are already addressing it for training, and then I think we have to take another step.
Thank you. Mr. Frackleton, you're up next first for this question, and it is a zoning code question. There's a divided opinion apparently about the zoning code. Some residents believe it's my property, I should be able to do what I want. Other residents believe that the zoning code is intended to protect their properties from being impacted by non-code compliant development. How would you handle decisions coming before you regarding zoning code variances?
Great question. So the general plan in our zoning is set up to be for the whole city, and it's not to single out anyone. It's to be for all of us. And I would, if someone came forward who wanted a variance to have their gazebo at 8 feet instead of 10 feet or what have you, I would treat everybody exactly the same, regardless of I know you, I don't know you, so forth. And apply the existing zoning and the existing general plan to what they're trying to do. Now, there are always extenuating circumstances. Is the house have a big slope in the back, and so there's no back neighbor, and so having that gazebo 8 feet rather than 10 feet really isn't a big deal. So I want to make sure that we cross the board, apply it to everyone equally, but at the same time, look at it on a case-by-case basis.
Mr. Keeley.
I agree that the code is very important to follow in the city for zoning and the improvements. However, I moved into the area recently with Diana, and we did a little project on remodeling our front and backyard. And I have nothing bad to say about the city. They were very responsive. And talking about the variances, it is possible and it's okay to do variances, but you got to use the common sense approach. Does this work for this particular property, and what effect does it do on the neighbors around it? And if it works, that's fine. And if it doesn't, well, that's how the things work out. So it's very important to follow existing rules, but also keep an open mind.
Mr. McBride.
So I've worked on high-rise buildings from New York to Singapore. We've had to comply with codes, and we've dealt with different variances and the difficulties of how to adjudicate those. The realities are much like what we've been echoed here. A variance is there's a reason why the codes exist. So when you ask for a variance, it's about who it impacts and how it changes the function and the character of the community. We come from a history of rural properties, and the original idea was that if you bought the property, you do with it whatever you well please. We now have some situations as walking around the city where we have a new construction at the corner of Santiago and Lemon that is quite stark and maximizes 28 feet, square building, et cetera. So if it's code compliant, that's, I guess, passes, but I think we may be reaching a time when these have to be addressed more.
Thank you. Mr. Talaby?
We have a zoning code because we need to ensure that we have high quality development and construction. It matters. It helps protect property values, and it helps keep us orderly. Want to fact check me? Take a stroll down to Westminster, Midway City, Stanton, Garden Grove, and enjoy the view. So it's important we follow the zoning code. As pertaining to variances, I think we need to pay attention to which variances we're talking about. If we're talking about a 7-foot garage door versus an 8-foot garage door because we have bigger cars than we used to, maybe instead of entertaining all of these variances, we need to go back, review our zoning ordinance, and perhaps make a revision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. McBride, you're going to be up first on this next question. Here we go. The state has approved the city's submittal of the Smith Basin property to be zoned for affordable housing units. plus some other city revenue projects. Will you approve zoning of the Smith Basin for this development to meet the state mandate?
Absolutely. There is no doubt about it. This is a significant challenge for Villa Park. The legislature in Sacramento decides what's best for our upscale community. We have to be smart about our relationship with the state government. Currently, we're compliant due to the zoning of ADUs and Smith Basin. It's a corner of Villa Park. We're 99.9% built out. Where would we put and make an additional 296 units in but we're over 80% small estate residential. So there's no doubt about it that this is an excellent solution for how we proceed to comply with the mandate.
Mr. Talaby?
I agree with Mr. McBride. There's over 20 acres of developable land in the Smith Basin. The plan that was put together is a great plan. It's going to marginally affect the way we do things around here. And as your councilman, I intend to ensure that there is a developer agreement between the city of Villa Park and us, and them, I apologize, to make sure that it's a cost-neutral plan. And I think that's important. Villa Park, while we have the rights to zone it, praise God, it shouldn't cost us anything. And I will do my absolute best to ensure that the burden of the cost, if not all of the cost, is on the developer.
Mr. Freckleton?
Yes, I believe that the Smith Basin is the best compromise solution. And just so everyone doesn't get too nervous, the mandate is we have to allow for it. The mandate isn't that we actually have to go build it and provide for it. So all we have to do is allow for it and then hope to goodness that it doesn't actually happen. And if it does, that like was said before, that we make it as cost neutral to the city and perhaps as difficult as possible.
Mr. Keeley?
I agree that it's a great solution to a problem that could become a bigger problem if we don't address it. By passing it, exactly, it doesn't mean we're building it, but basically we're getting the big brother off our back, because if we don't, they're going to come down really hard and do whatever the hell they want, which we don't want for our city. That way, we kind of control our destiny a little bit by providing the zoning and providing allocated land for it. And if somebody really wants to develop it, we can come up with some ways to how to slow it down. I have some ideas, because there's other ways to work with the problem by flanking it out and make it a little difficult. But the point is, we have to allow it because state will come down hard on us.
Thank you. Mr. Keeley, you're up first now for this next question, and it's my favorite subject, budgets. So is there any item in the current Villa Park budget that you would change if elected?
Well, of course, I'll channel all the money to myself. I'm just kidding. I lived in Irvine for almost 40 years, and I've been involved with different cities, people who run them. And believe it or not, this is probably one of the best cities fiscally run. What would I change? I don't know if I need to change. I need to study a little bit more, but I would review what can we do to save certain things on certain items. As I said, by saving the money but not spending it too much, we can allocate those resources somewhere else. What it is, I don't know without really studying in detail, but I always have an open mind.
Thank you. Mr. McBride?
So we have an excellent staff. We have a great financial advisory committee. The one thing that I think I might point out is that we have reserves, and public safety is in the news now. The fact is that the criminals are becoming more sophisticated, et cetera. LEAC has now been presented with the automatic license plate readers that, if approved, would put 17 cameras in our city. And so, yes, it's somewhat expensive. It represents a solid investment in the state-of-the-art equipment that identifies unlicensed or stolen vehicles, reports it to the sheriff with the possibility of apprehension before a burglary can occur. So that's one item that I think I would add to the budget that's currently not in it.
Mr. Talaby?
I think we need to look at the cost of our building permits. And as a matter of fact, the council just discussed this last night. And I don't know if you folks know, but we're not covering all of the cost of our building permit processing expenses. And that's okay. There's no problem with that. Why? Because we want to make sure people improve their homes. Why would we want them to do that? Because the property taxes go up when we make improvements to our homes. It's like a stimulus package. But we can raise the cost of building permits a little bit. And the council already has a plan to do that. And as your councilman, I'm going to continue with that plan. And it's going to be a 3% increase. And it's going to be like air in the wind. And you'll still be able to get to make all the improvements on your house that you want and have the lovely properties all of you have. Thank you.
Mr. Freckleton.
Right now, our $5.6 million operating budget, 41% of it, or $2.3 million, is going towards police services. And it's a big chunk, I know, but the payoff is we've got really low crime, one of the lowest in the county, if not the lowest in the county. And I think that the LEAC committee is about to come, the Law Enforcement Advisory Committee, is about to come forward to council with this concept of the cameras, and it is going to be an expense, but it's probably a budget line item that we should consider.
Thank you. I'm going to make a last call here for any more questions. If anyone has any more questions that you'd like to ask, this is probably a good time to get them turned in. Mr. Talaby, you're next up on this question. How would you preserve the uniqueness of Villa Park?
I think it starts with public safety. I think one thing that makes us unique is we are very safe, which is why our sheriff expenses are almost 50% of our budget. As I said earlier, no safety, you got nothing. And the second thing I would do to keep us in our traditional fashion is ensuring that we uphold our zoning code. This has been a hot topic, and for those of you that have been paying attention to recent city council meetings, zoning ordinances and variances have been popular items. And the third thing is going to be ensuring that we stay on top of state mandates that may negatively affect our city and our quality of life. The affordable housing development, and as some of the folks up here have said today, these group home operators. And I think working with them, trying to get ahead of this, networking with our state and federal representatives to get better knowledge and education of what's coming down the pipe is going to help us do that.
Thank you. Mr. Freckleton.
I think what makes Villa Park unique and what we should encourage is the volunteerism. This is a city that's always been small. We don't have a big government, thank goodness, but it's the volunteers who get things done. Whether it's the Villa Park Women's League, the Villa Park Rotary, the youth groups, National Charity League, National League of Young Men, Interact, so forth. That's who gets things done, and the City Council should always encourage that because looking around this room, I know these are all the people that I see at all the different events who actually make things happen, and that's what makes Villa Park unique, and that's what makes Villa Park special.
Mr. Keeley.
After living in California for over 40 years and spending most of my time in Irvine, I love Villa Park's sense of community. It's a small town, and it seems like everybody knows everybody else. As I drive, which is not frequently, I see somebody walking a dog, and somebody stops and talks for 5 minutes. I lived in Irvine for almost 40 years. I know a neighbor on the right, neighbor across the alley, and I didn't know anybody else. And there's no sense of community. And this is what I really love about this city. And I want to continue this by spearheading the community outreach and working with different groups to make it even better and more fun for the groups to interact with each other.
Mr. McBride.
Well, I'm going to echo what Mr. Frackleton indicated. I've been a member of Rotary and loved meeting the people that are smart, successful, and truly good people here. I think that's part of what's unique about it. We have the Community Services Foundation, which is amazing, and all of the events that they did. I attended the picnic the other day, a terrific event. And the Villa Park Women's League. I'm a member of the gourmet group, and we go to all of the meals in other people's homes. We take food, we break bread, and that's truly what has led us to bond into the community. So I would continue to support those groups together. And then lastly, keep on the meaningful and visible improvements in street maintenance, median, and improvement in our schools. I think that's what leads to the property values that we all choose.
Thank you. You were the last person for that question, right? I think so.
That's
we all had a
correct.
chance to.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you. Mr. Frackleton, you're up first for the next question. What can we do about traffic in our streets?
All right, good question. So there is a traffic study happening right now. If you notice the little black line going across some of the streets that you've been driving over, it reminds me of the old full-service gas stations, which half this audience won't know what I'm talking about. And that's done on a regular basis, and then city staff comes back to council with, here's what we learned, here's what the speeds are, here's what the traffic count is, and then you got to look at, okay, do we have the right setup? Do we need to look at different stop signs, yield signs, crosswalks that need to be added, so on and so forth. I'm still getting used to the no stop sign on Nichols, but I'm told that it's actually improved things. So I don't know. I might want to rethink that when if I had the chance of being elected. I do think the high school has finally done a great job of getting that traffic flow in a much better pattern than it was before. And hopefully we can get the other schools to follow suit.
Thank you. Mr. Keeley?
I have a little bit of experience with the traffic, but from a different perspective. I was actually involved with Singapore and a couple other cities using our software to simulate the traffic conditions, road repairs, and how it affects everything. So by doing this study, which is very important, we find out what is the hours that are most traveled and where is the concentration of the traffic and try to improve that. Now, believe it or not, the other study that I'm very familiar with is runabouts is actually very more efficient than stop signs, and stop signs are more efficient than red lights. So the question is, do we do something about it? Probably not, but we got to look at other alternatives, how we can improve it, and there is other ways without spending too much money.
Thank you. Mr. McBride?
Well, nobody likes tickets, I get it, but, we had some enforcement about the rolling stops that happened for a while. I think it's backed off. I think maybe we need to revisit some of that. But I like the idea that we added all of the flashers to the stops at Taft and also at Lemon so that people are very aware of the aspects of traffic that are important, which is you don't blow through the stops. The Nichols thing is difficult. I think it's still being kind of reviewed for that. So the reality is it's a tough nut as we grow as a city. More people try to come through us. We also had a plan that we staved off the county for designating Villa Park as a thoroughfare. So I think we need to continue to watch other legislation that might impact us.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Talabey?
I think the most important thing to do when we're reviewing traffic issues is trying to figure out the root cause of the traffic issue. As I said earlier, if we're going to have this village affordable housing development and we're going to import double what we already have here, we're going to need an environmental impact review to see what we're going to do about it. I think historically, the city has done a great job. Previous council, with you wonderful residents, brainstorming ideas to fix our issues regarding traffic. Many of you live in these school zones, and for some reason, you have more wisdom than everybody else, and your wisdom is probably the best. And I would say moving forward, any additional traffic issues that we identify, we're going to do what we've done before. We're going to collaborate with each other on a council, we're going to collaborate with the neighboring residents, and we're going to figure out a solution that works for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McBride, you're going to be up first on this next question. What is the status of the proposal to install, someone talked about this earlier, to install license plate readers at a few locations of city entries? So maybe dig down into this question a little bit more. What is the status of that proposal, and what are your opinions on that?
So the status is that LEAC, unfortunately, had moved their meeting, so they didn't have a quorum, but they were presented by city staff the costs from 7 vendors for the license plate readers. The net effect is that we're going to narrow it down to 2 of the bidders. the cost is a little over $100,000, which quite honestly is expensive. But the reality of it is that one terrific burglary and the tragedy has already occurred. So we have a great record so far. There were no burglaries last month. They're going to put 17 cameras in 6 different locations, which are the entries to Villa Park. I think it'll be very effective and worth the investment that will pay off over a long term.
Mr. Talaby?
I know that this is in process, and I know that the next LEAC meeting this coming month in October, we're going to learn more about it. And as we learn more about it, we'd be happy to share that information with you. And I know that when I'm knocking on your doors, having the privilege and opportunity to meeting all of you and enjoying all of the wholesome conversation I've already got to have with many of you, I'd be happy to discuss that with you in more detail at that time. Thank you.
Mr. Freckleton?
Yes, so that is correct that the bids are in and LEAC is reviewing them, and it is going to be coming towards council with a decision on whether we're going to go forward or not with cameras. My knee-jerk reaction is it's a great idea. My Orwellian view is, what else could these be used for? But I think we need to deliberate and talk and make sure that the upside far outweighs the downside, which my knee-jerk reaction is it probably does. Anaheim has them. I believe Fullerton has them. So I'd like to find out how that's been working for them, whether it's actually helping and so forth.
Mr. Keeley?
I am a little bit concerned about it because where I grew up, because government control or any control, I double ask, do we really need it? But I completely changed my mind on this particular issue, which you probably don't know, that every truck that goes through and pick up your garbage, they have the license plate readers already. And the license plate readers that we will install will not be used to monitor you, but if there is something happens, that they can use as the great tool to find the pattern where that particular car went. So I see a great opportunity to help to keep our community safe by using this. And I have a little bit of a knowledge how it works and how the database. I was at the meeting and I asked the sheriff, well, how all these different systems talk to each other, and they have a plan to combine them to make it more seamlessly to get the information to the patrolling cars as fast as possible. And I think that's a great thing.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Keeley, you're up next first for the next question. It's about the businesses. We're here in the town center. There are many different owners that own businesses, including my favorite, the Coffee Grove. We have also big chains here. Do you support and how would you support all the businesses in Villa Park?
Well, the businesses is what built America to begin with, especially the small businesses. So we need to be as friendly as possible to our businesses and try to attract the new ones by come up with the better maybe zoning or better regulations so they don't have too much red tape. Now, to keep them in place, we also make sure that we don't tax them out of their living and by not providing too many compliances they have to jump over. So I'm very pro-business person, and I want to keep the ones that are here and maybe attract the new ones.
Mr. McBride?
Yeah, I'm not sure how you get 11 different owners to talk to each other and agree on various aspects for their own city. I mean, it's been a battle for a long time. One of the things, of course, not to harp on the public safety thing, but I think that if we added security in the middle of the night and talked to the ownership or worked something out along that line where they, from 2 to 4 a.m., they had people here, they might suffer less loss than the jewelry store where they went through the Bagel Me and broke into the jewelry store. Other than that, it's publication and signage. It's just not a lot we can do as a council.
Mr. Talaby?
I think we all want to see mom and pop shops all the way through the town center. I think that would be very rewarding for all of us. And Mr. McBride is correct. I don't know how we're going to get 11 people to agree on one thing, especially when there's money on the table. But I think what we can do And what I can do as a councilman is if there ever was a unit that was available, notify everybody and encourage the conversation that maybe we can find somebody that can afford and has the means to open up shop in our town center. It's very risky, as many of you know. I know we're dealing with a very high concentration of accomplished people in this community, and it's risky. So I think what we can do is just get each other involved, raise awareness, and do everything we can to encourage people to participate in the businesses in our town center.
Mr. Frackleton.
Well, I think the best thing we can do for the businesses in the town center and for the residents is to make sure we don't have to put on our ballot ever a sales tax increase like our city of Orange is doing. Let's not go there. So that we got to be fiscally conservative. We got to make sure that our budget is balanced and that we have a great reserve, and we don't want to ever have to raise sales tax and lower sales tax. Hopefully, our businesses will actually see a little bit of a boom since likely Orange's tax is going to go up.
All right, Mr. Talabot, you're up next first for the next question. How would you describe, or please describe, your community involvement?
Sure. My community involvement began in high school. I went to Orange Lutheran. I played volleyball with many people from Villa Park, and I really enjoyed it. I dined at Rockwell's very frequently. Rockwell's was a very popular place. It always has been. And more recently, I've been involved in the city council meetings. As I stated earlier, I organized a group of residents that were very disgruntled about the new group home opening next door to me, and were seeking answers and additional education. And I've been fortunate enough to be recognized and appointed by current council members to participate in our group home task force because that many people were upset about it and we're looking for solutions. So I was able to roll up my sleeves, dive right into it, didn't know much about it, but we've made a lot of things happen since then.
Thank you. Mr. Frackleton.
Well, I thought this might come up, so I made a list, and this is a little ridiculous, so buckle in. I'm currently the director of the Villa Park Community Services Foundation. I'm currently on the Group Home Task Force. I'm a retired reserve firefighter here in Villa Park. I was named the Rookie of the Year in 2002 and Firefighter of the Year 2008-2010. I'm the past coordinator for over 12 years of the Villa Park Marines Thanksgiving event. I'm the past president of the Villa Park Rotary Club. I'm the past co-chair of the Villa Park High School Campus Care Day Committee. I've painted a lot of lockers. I'm the past member of the Villa Park General Plan Citizens Advisory Committee in 2007. My favorite thing, perhaps, I'm the past editor of Mrs. Covington's kindergarten's class at Serrano, and I prepared the soil for her garden 3 years in a row. I'm the past coach of ASO Soccer. I'm the past nation chief and tribal chief of the Longhouse of the Orange Skies YMCA Guides and Princesses program. I provided the truck, and I was a driver for the Halloween Fest hayride for about 6 years. I'm the past editor of the Saraville Middle School newsletter. I'm the past chapter director and board member of the Villa Park National Junior Basketball League.
I have to cut
I'm not
you
done
off.
yet.
I have to cut you off on that one. Mr. Keeley.
Sorry about that.
Well, I have not been in the community that long, so I don't have that big of a long list. But ever since I just moved the community, I started going to Rotary Club. And literally within 2 weeks being here, I volunteered and helped with the Halloween party that was going on here. Besides that, I did started, we started the nonprofit 501c3 organization. I do drive some people in the neighborhood to different meetings to help out, and I do whatever I can to help the community. And I hope to continue doing that because it is a great community. Therefore, I want to be part of it and volunteer in as many places as I can.
Thank you. Mr. McBride.
I'm just glad I didn't have to follow Robert Frackleton. My goodness. Well, I did Meals on Wheels this morning with Leslie Giacobbe. That was nice. Truthfully, I'm just getting started on my contributions to this community, and it's mostly through Rotary. I think it's a terrific group that we're with. I've been so impressed by the people, not only as the song leader in Rotary, but also with my efforts at the Rotary Fireworks booth this last year with Diane Rothy and Dave Holler. We had a serious increase in our revenues, and it was because we did some serious planning with the committee and we created a flyer, and I made it so we could allow patrons to prepare for the package purchases at the booth along with more efficient checkout prices. More importantly, I intend to truly answer this question 4 years from now after serving on the council.
Thank you. Mr. Frackleton, you're up first for this next question. What are your personal values? What motivates you?
Personal values is, well, community service, for one. That's what got me here in this seat. My parents moved here 54 years ago and served on city council. My mother was president of the Women's League. And so I learned growing up that you need to get involved in your community, in your neighborhood. Perhaps I did too much, but that is a personal value. Personal value, I mean, first and foremost is family. And I'm so pleased that my wife and kids are here, and family comes first, and then of course community. So family, community, that's what it's all about.
Mr. Keeley.
I love the community, and I basically an American dream. I'm living it. And because I'm living it, this is the time for me to pay it back by getting involved. I've always been involved kind of with politics by volunteering, walking the precincts, doing the phone calls. This is the time to roll up your own sleeves and do whatever you can to help the community to pay it forward. And that's why I'm sitting this position. I do have my wife's here, but I consider you as a family, our extended family. Betty Chu, we drive to every possible school board meeting and speak at different cities on important subjects. So being part of the community is not only serving your community, but created better tie with the other communities to forward your things that needs to be accomplished to make a better Orange County as a whole.
Thank you so much. Mr. McBride.
Well, I already spoke quite a bit about that, the fact that I just believe in the good people need to step forward and volunteer in their community. We've been incredibly impressed at the various meetings that we met folks, et cetera. I worked hard my life to earn the privilege of living here in Villa Park. And so it's very important to me to protect the right of the folks that are the smart and successful people that get to live in our upscale community because we work to get here. And it's all about preserving the character of, our community where we cherish our family, our country, and values of hard work and faith.
Thank you. Mr. Talaby?
Faith, family, and community, in that order. Faith is very important to me, and I think it's very important to my family. I think it's important to many families that are probably in this room, and it's the backbone to communities, and I care very much about that. And it's very clear that many of you do as well. I have had unbelievable interactions with the people and residents in Villa Park. I don't know where all of you wonderful people came from, and I've been talking about it since I began this campaign because it's truly a blessing to be here. As a newcomer to Villa Park with an official address, I've known about Villa Park my whole life, but with an official address, it really is such a blessing to be here and to be surrounded by such wonderful, moral, traditional people. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our last question for the evening. Mr. McBride, you're going to be first up for this. How would you measure success in your role if elected?
So I think that the metric is really derived from the mission of the city. It's to deliver the best quality of life to the residents of Villa Park using the most cost-effective and efficient means. When we sit up on the council, it's mostly civic administration. It's about how high the hedges are, about, or do lights shine in the other people's yards. But in the end, if we have the kind of community we're talking about, we support the Women's League, we support the Community Service Foundation, then the neighbors look good and they tend to fix their yards themselves. If we add to that from the council, that we work on the medians and we have a sensible pavement condition index where we fix the streets on the long term and make that really work for us, that's what takes the community to another level. So truly, that's what I would believe is a successful term.
Thank you. Mr. Talaby?
A successful term for me would be two parts. First, was I a servant to you? And did I meet your needs? Because you are first. I am working for you. And it's my pleasure and privilege to work for you. And the second thing is, did I earn your confidence? And I think I've been earning the confidence of many people around town, which is quite a blessing. And I think that's happened because people see I practice what I preach. And it means a lot to me when people trust that I listen, I act, and I resolve. And I will do the same for you if you vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Frackleton?
Well, the biggest success is if 4 years from now you don't have a sober living home on your street and you don't have high-density housing going up behind your house. That would be the hugest success. Also having a low crime rate, continuing that, keeping the city's finances in order and in check, and remaining fiscally conservative, and smiling and having fun because we're just so thrilled to be here in Villa Park. That would be a successful 4 years.
Thank you. Mr. Keeley?
Success to me would be, first of all, keep it as it is now, because it is already very successful. But what can we do to make it a little bit better? To me, the big thing is, as everybody talked about, safety. It is a very safe town, but if we can make it a little bit more safer, then we can be more open and interact with each other. Also, sober living is a big deal in my book, because I know people in Irvine, and they just had a murder in one of those houses. We don't ever, ever want to experience that in our community. So I'll work my hardest to see what we can do to wrestle control back from the state, back to our city, so we can control how it is done within our borders, which is really, we have a border too. We're a small city, not like the border on the south border, but since we are a city, we should have a local control how things are done and not dictated by Sacramento.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We're going to proceed to our closing statements now. Each candidate will have 2 minutes. We're back to 2 minutes on the closing statements, and we're going to go in reverse order this time. So, Mr. Frackleton, you're up first for the closing statements.
Well, thank you once again for having us here. It's an honor and a privilege to be a part of this process. I have really enjoyed the meet and greets and walking door to door. I always feel like I'm bothering people, but they're so delightful and are ready to chat about how great Villa Park is. And everyone really loves living here. But we need to preserve that. We need to keep Villa Park the same. We need to resist the state mandates that are coming down on us. We got to keep our police and fire services at the levels that keep our low crime rate. We have to have fiscal responsibility. We got to make sure that the city is solvent and the city is transparent in how they're spending their money, and we have a good reserve. I've been active in this community. I think I've made that point. And I have a great legacy here in the fact that I've been here for 45 out of my 55 years, and I really, really love my hometown, and it would be an honor, a privilege to get your vote and to serve on your city council. Thank you.
Mr. Keeley.
Thank you very much. I hope I deliver a clear explanation why I want to get involved, because I love the city. And I want to be representing you, not myself. I want to improve on things that can be improved, but I don't want to break everything, because whenever things work, you just build on it. And that's what I really want to do. So for me, the main thing is safety, number one, get community involved, and then create a better, I mean, we do already have a very good relationship with other cities around us, but whatever we can do to work better with Yorba Linda, with Huntington Beach, with Orange, or any other city to forward our ideas that will make everybody's life better, and in that, doing that will improve our life better. So I'm looking from I approach everything from the common sense point of view. Does it make sense to do it? And if yes, what is the cost of it? So that's why I want to get involved in Pay It Forward by working on a council and bring my experience working internationally and working with big group and big projects, but bring that experience to a small city because it can benefit from it also. And I'm really looking forward in learning more about you and talk to you and hopefully earning your vote. Thank you.
Mr. McBride.
So I definitely want to thank the Community Services Foundation, Chad Zimmerman, Forrest Case, Jill Kulai, and the people that have counseled me so much, so many others that have done the work to improve our community for this event and others. In fact, Jill Kulai herself gave me a precious copy of The Hidden Jewel, The History of Villa Park, last year, which I read cover to cover and encouraged my run for council. Thank you, Carolyn, for being such a great moderator 6 years before and now. We've had a terrific tradition of sensible and competent leadership in Villa Park, and I hope to add my name to that illustrious list of community leaders that have created such a community. One thing I didn't mention was that as a pilot and former owner of a classic airplane, I served on the board of American Bonanza Society for 6 years, representing 11,000 members, both nationally and internationally, ensuring the safety and interests of plane owners and general aviation. As you might imagine, not only being a pilot, but being nominated by your fellow pilots to be their representative is a huge responsibility and requires a forward outlook, not only in the cockpit when we constantly ask, what's next, but also to stay ahead of the legal challenges that face the aviation community. This will also be a significant challenge for Villa Park, and as the legislature in Sacramento decides what we need to do to stay compliant with the housing element and the rest, it needs to be monitored closely, and our council representatives need to network with the decision makers in Sacramento, not with the attitude of demanding elites, but as a community of entrepreneurs and professionals that represent the middle class that includes everyone that works hard and dreams big. Thank you, and I hope to earn your vote.
Mr. Talaby.
Thank you again to everyone who participated in putting this event together and hosting this event. Thank you to our lovely moderator. You crushed it. I can't believe so much time has gone by already. Holy cow. This city is great. This is a wonderful city. It's a blessing to be here running for this council with such a wonderfully working city. And I hope all of you know that. It's already great. We just have to keep it that way. And part of the way we're going to keep it that way is wrestling the forces outside of this community that might negatively affect it and making sure that you're aware of what's going on. This seat that we're sitting in, these are borrowed. There were previous council people that sat in these seats, and there will continue to be additional council men and women that you elect and the future elects to protect and serve this great city. And it truly is a privilege to sit up here in front of all of you and answer all of your questions tonight. I'm blessed, I'm honored, and I can't wait to earn your vote to protect our quality of life, our way of life, and everything about this city that makes it great, that made people like me want to bring my family here and stay here forever. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to all the candidates. I'm feeling pretty good that I live next door and I don't have to pick from these four who I'm going to vote for. Let's give all of our candidates a round of applause.
And our awesome volunteers who are timekeeping, passing out cards, and making all this possible. Thank you again to the candidates, and thank you all again for coming out. Make sure to vote. Come back and vote. So thank you all.